Welcome to Unit 4, Lesson 15, Working Backwards, Practice Problem. That should be an S on that. Working backwards. Okay, here we go again. Our first one, select all expressions that are equivalent. So draw your distribution arrows to make sure you do the proper distribution. 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. 3 times 2i's plus 6i. Negative 5 times negative 8 is negative 40i. No, positive 40i, I'm sorry. And then negative times a positive is negative 10i squared. I squared is negative 1, so this is plus 10. So negative 24 plus 6i plus 40i plus 10 are our 4 terms. Negative 14 plus 46i. All right, let's see. (24 plus 6i minus 40i. Nope, A doesn't work. B doesn't work. C. Minus 10i squared plus 40i plus 6i. All right, so C works. D. Negative 4. Nope. D doesn't work. E doesn't work. F. Negative 24 plus 10 plus 4. F works. And then G works. All right, so there were 3 that worked. All right, explain how to show a right. So basically, this is the same thing we've been doing. Just distribute. All right, 20 times 8 is 160. 20 times 4i is 80i. Negative I times 8 is negative 8i. And negative times 4i is negative 4i squared. So 160 plus 72i. I squared is just negative 1 plus 4. So you get 164 plus 72i. Okay, without writing the left side in the form of a plus bi, how could you tell that this equation is false? I don't know. So I'm going to multiply it. I'm not going to take the time to guess. I'm just going to go ahead and do my work. And so negative 90 plus 13 times 9. 9 times 3 is 27. 117. 2i times 10 is 20i. 2 times 13, 26. Negative 26 I squared. Now this is positive 1. I squared is positive, is negative 1. Okay, so negative 1 times negative 26 becomes negative 90 plus 26 plus 117i plus 20i, which gives me 137i minus 64. Yeah, 64. Okay. Andre spilled something on his math notebook, and some parts of the problem he was working on were erased. Here's one of the problems. So let's see. We just got to pick some numbers. Let's pick 5 and 10. Let's see. 5 times 10 is 50. 5 times 2i is plus 10i. Negative 2i times 6, 10. This is a 10. Is negative 20i. And negative 2i plus 2i is minus 4i squared, which is negative 1. If I squared is negative 1, then that means plus 4. So 50 plus 4 plus 10i minus 20i. So you get 54 minus 10i. So there you go. So that works. Okay, let's try some other numbers. I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to try 1 minus 2i and 6 plus 2i. Draw your distribution arrows. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 2i is plus 2i. Negative 2i times 6 is negative 12i. And then 2i times 2i is minus 4i squared. So I squared is negative 1. This becomes plus 4. So 6 plus 4 equals 10. And then 2i minus 12i is minus 10i. So there you go. You get another 10i. So that could work. Sometimes you just got to try different numbers and see what works. Okay, so now let us do this one. When you have an x squared, take the square root of both sides. X is equal to positive 7 and negative 7. For x cubed, you take the cube root of both sides. 49 is not a perfect cube, so x will equal the cube root of 49. If you don't remember this, go back and look in a lesson, I don't know, block 4, block 5, block 6, I think. I'm not sure. That dealt with solving radical equations. The next one, x squared cannot be equal to a negative number. So the solution we get is not going to be real. So we can do this. We're going to do this. You separate 49 into negative 1 times 49. And x is positive root 7i, positive 7i, and negative 7i. And we can take the cube roots of negative numbers because of the shape of the graph. So x equals the cube root of 49. Okay, so now what we're going to do is distribute. We get 6 plus 4i. 6 is here in the real number plane. 4i is right there. All right, so that's A. B, distribute your i's. So you get 3i plus 2i squared, which is negative 2 plus 3i. Negative 2 plus 3i is about right there, and that's about B. Okay, for C, distribute. You get negative 3i minus 2i squared. I squared is negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2. So that becomes 2 minus 3i. 2 minus 3i goes down there, and that's C down there. And for D, distribute, 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 distribute. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 3 times 2i is 6i. Now to distribute it to negative 2, negative 2i times 3 is negative 6i. And then negative 2i times 2i is negative 4i squared. The 6's cancel out. 6 minus 6 is 0. You're left with 9 minus 4 times negative 1. Well, that becomes positive 4. So 9 plus 4 is 13. D is right there. Okay, let's look at this table. showing how investments are growing over time. Describe a pattern how each account changed from one year to the next. So the first thing we got to do is figure out the change. If this is thousands of dollars, that means it's changing 100, 100, 100. So the change is 100 starting at 5,000. And so this is changing 10,000, but this is changing $150. Okay, so account A is plus $100 a year. Account B is plus $150 per year. Okay, so now we got to write a function in thousands of dollars. What this means is you don't write 5,000 or 10,000. So for A of time equals 5 plus 0.1 t for t greater than 0. Okay, for B, we're going to write B of t is equal to 10 plus 0.15 t. Okay, see, will account A ever had the same balance of account B? Okay, account A starts at 5,000 and it goes up by $100. Account B starts at 10,000 and goes up by 150. So no, they will never have the same, because B starts higher and it has a greater amount of change. So if you was to graph these, A would start and look like this, and then B would start higher and look like that. It would have a greater slope. So lines can never cross on a positive axis.